Hello, I'm Ian Sloan and I'm one of the founding members of Operation Friendship, and I believe you've got a few questions for me.
Yes, Ian. Wally Shaw had the idea of encouraging youth exchange between Scotland and his homeland of the United States. How and when did you get involved in this?
Well, in 1964 I was president of the Youth Fellowship at St Margaret's Church in Glenrothes, and Wally came to talk to us about the possibilities of an exchange with the United States, and the Youth Fellowship selected 3 delegates.
3 people were chosen for the trip. Tell us a little bit about them, ages and interests and hobbies.
Yeah, the 3 of us. Douglas Brodie. Douglas was probably the most intelligent one. Douglas went on to become a veterinary surgeon. Sadly, he's no longer with us. Secondly was Alec Pattison, who went on to a career in housing management. And myself, Ian Sloan, and my interests at that time were science. But I then went on to study community education.
Where did the name Operation Friendship come from?
I believe that Operation Friendship was a product of the really fertile mind of Wally Shaw. He came up with the idea and he got the logo designed, and it went from there.
Now about the trip. How did you prepare for the trip?
Well, the very first thing we had to do was get passports, because obviously none of us had ever been out of Great Britain in our lives before. After that, we worked with the members of the Youth Fellowship to raise funds towards the trip. And we also spent quite a bit of time with people who Wally knew, who had connections in the eastern states of the United States.
What were the financial implications for you?
Yeah, well, believe it or not, the return flight from Prestwick to New York was £60. So we contributed £30 personally, and the other £30 per person was raised by the Youth Fellowship members.
You stayed in a number of communities, but what was planned in the USA for the 3 of you prior to travelling?
Well, what they did was they found hosts for us, obviously, in New Jersey and in Massachusetts, and in the middle week of the 3-week visit we stayed at a residential summer camp.
Were you and your family committed to hosting in return should an exchange arise?
Yes, that's always been part of the deal with Operation Friendship. If you travel with the organisation, you are, if it's at all possible, expected then to host a young person from another country.
You set off in July 1965 as ambassadors for Scotland. Tell us about your experiences in America.
Well, as I said, we arrived in JFK in New York, and we were met by Mr. and Mrs. Lindroth of Kearney, New Jersey, and they took us to their home, and we stayed there, all 3 of us, for the first week of the exchange. We were taken into New York several times. We went to the World's Fair. We were guests also of the First Presbyterian Church of Kearney with the Reverend Bob Blackwell, and him and young people from his church were our guides. The second week, sorry, I should continue, we went to Island Heights Conference Centre on the shore of New Jersey, where we joined in with a group of teenagers 14 to 17 years of age, and really enjoyed ourselves participating in all the activities, and of course swimming in the Atlantic Ocean.
What response did you get to inviting your host back to Scotland in 1966?
What we got was a tremendous response. 3 of us went out, and 33 young Americans came back the following year, and it just snowballed from there.
Do you have an abiding memory from your trip, Ian?
I think it was the magnitude of everything. Being in New York with the noise, the people, the skyscrapers, and then travelling hundreds and hundreds of miles up to Massachusetts and staying basically in a rural setting in a small community. So we saw all the contrasts. It was brilliant.
What role did you play in establishing Operation Friendship Glenrothes, spreading the idea in Scotland and in creating Operation Friendship Scotland?
Yes, well, obviously we had to find hosts for 33 people in 1966, which we did, and then the other groups started to form in Scotland. There was Kirkcaldy, there was Leven, Edinburgh, Rutherglen, and in Glasgow, of course. We also had a group up in Nairn, way up in the north of Scotland. Operation Friendship International then extended into all the other countries. I won't name them all, you know what they are, but I think one of the highlights was when my wife and I organised the international meeting for the Millennium Year 2000 here in Glenrothes. And from that start back in 1965, there was 13 nations attended the conference in Glenrothes that year, and this plate here commemorates that occasion.